Welcome to the fine print, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a lot of requests to bring on some sort of illicit market. We're not supposed to say black market anymore. I think that's racist, but I've got some requests to bring out some illicit market dealers here. And today I'm joined by a Herny Anslinger. Henry, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Is there any particular reason you've chosen to sort of join anonymously here?
I mean, we got a lot of voices from a lot of other places, but I mean, I think if you look at the number of people who smoke weed, there's got to be a lot more than just me out there doing what I do. So it's probably, I don't know, good to get a slight representation of that.
Would you mind
out to the
sharing?
public.
Would you mind sharing your 5-minute life story with us?
I mean, it's nothing crazy. Grew up in Vermont. Went to school in Vermont. Went to post high school education in Vermont. Spent time Massachusetts and New York City working in kitchens and stuff, and then ended up back here and basically been smoking weed the whole time since probably 11 years old. And I don't know, somehow it hasn't stopped me from doing the things I've wanted to do or becoming the person I wanted to become. And despite growing up in the late '80s, early '90s, when the messaging from everybody was quite the opposite on what weed or marijuana or whatever you want, cannabis. We're supposed to call it cannabis now.
Marijuana's racist now. Yeah.
I know. It's fucking stupid, man. It's call it whatever you want. You know, shit. We've been calling it fucking crazy shit since day one. So who gives a shit? I don't. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, no, I spent some time when I was a lot younger selling stupid, like a lot stupider shit, and then just been in this sort of. I don't know. I don't want to even like call it like a hustle mindset, but like growing up in Vermont as and poor, you've got to do what you got to do to make it. You got to eat, you got to have gas. You can't go anywhere if you can't fill up your gas tank. You got to heat, you got to pay bills. Like you got to do all that, and you can't do that if you fucking just work. It's really hard. You got to have something else. So you work full time and then you fucking hustle on the side.
And what you said, you worked in the kitchens, so the kitchens aren't really cutting the mustard. Is that what you're telling me?
Um, it's one of those industries that like so many others where the margins are so tight that the only controllable cost is your labor cost. So you have to keep your labor costs as tight as possible because you can't control the cost of food. You can't control the cost of the gas coming in. You can't control the cost of anything else, but you can control how much you pay your workers and how much you let them work or the kind of shifts they work or how you do your scheduling so you can avoid paying certain extra taxes or whatever it might be. And yeah, it's not really the most financially sound career path. Ultimately, it's not like there's a lot of fucking money in that, but
That seems like a labor of love, as far as I'm concerned, for most people that I know that work in kitchens anyway.
yeah, I mean it's labor of love, and it's also a place where people who don't fit into a standard office style lifestyle, you wouldn't survive in that, can do something, can be passionate, can make enough money to survive while also, being surrounded by a bunch of crazy broken people like themselves.
Mm. And I would imagine there's a lot of that in sort of the weed game as well.
I mean, it's with black market sales, I guess, like with what we do, like the most part, if you're doing it right, you're not expanding too far out from people that you trust, right? You don't have a store open, you're not on Instagram, you're not on fucking Snapchat sharing that shit. Like you're not trying to get new customers that way. Like you source customers, you source your friends, and if you trust someone enough to like and so you end up the two are one and the same. It's a Venn diagram of one circle. Because the people that you work with are generally smoking weed or whatever, and the people that you become friends with are generally in that same passion. And if you can supply that, it makes it easier for everybody. So yeah, it ends up being one and the same.
Mm. And do you
I
see a
don't
lot
know.
of that? Do you see a lot of weed smokers in the kitchens you work in?
I see more than squares. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, like the best clientele, is going to be your friends, the people that you trust, the people that and you want to do right by them, you want to treat them well, and like, so if you're working with people 60 hours a week, 6 days a week, who are you going to become friends with? Who are you going to trust more, and why not? Like that's the thing is that makes sense is that like you have a circle of people that aren't going to fuck you over. You're not going to fuck them over, and ultimately you're both benefiting because I'll be damned if you could fucking work that much without going home and doing something. Like
Mm.
most people, a lot of chefs for a long time go home and they just get fucking drunk. And cocaine, another
I
one.
see it.
Big
Yeah, I was gonna
shit,
say I see a lot of cocaine
a
use in the
lot.
kitchens.
And and none of that shit leads to anything positive. The people who have used that as a crutch to get by, in my experience, have not lasted very long as in the business and restaurants, but in just life. It just fucks you up. Like how long can you rely on something as expensive and as fucking damaging as coke or as fucking detrimental as alcohol? And like you can drink. I'm not trying to say that alcohol's bad. I like to drink. I enjoy it, right? Which is it's not something that like I can do every night. It's not something I can do every day. I can smoke weed every fucking day without a problem and function just fine and be a good like member of society and working in
Yeah, whatever
kitchens.
that means.
Well, I mean, for me, it means like treating people with respect, bringing kindness into people, like to people, and just treating people well, right? Like whether it be at the grocery store, whether it be in your home, whether it be anyone you bump into in the street, like why not treat them with respect until they give you a reason not to? That's my thing, and that's all it takes. And like a lot of alcoholics, a lot of fucking other drug addicts, you won't get that, like it becomes so selfish. Like it's such a selfish addiction when you get into everything else. And like, having done everything else, it becomes so selfish. Whereas like, I don't know, weed has always been more of a substance. I don't even want to call it a drug because it's just a plant, right?
Mm.
But it's like something that like has always brought people together.
Yeah,
You
like
know what I'm saying?
a communal sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you met someone you start chatting and then like they're like, yeah, you smoke weed, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna be friends, like just
Mm.
from that, and you're like, like that moment, you're like, okay, like everything else, like we have this one solid foundation where we know we're gonna be okay.
Mm.
And I don't know, I don't feel like that with many other things, where like that one thing is like such a fundamental like relationship builder that most other drugs aren't, and or
Mm.
any other
Mm.
substances really aren't. Like it's a communal thing more so than anything.
Mm. Can I ask you a little bit about law enforcement, man? I'm curious to know sort of if you've ever got yourself in any trouble or how your relationship with law enforcement has panned out doing what you do.
Like the only times I've ever really gotten even close to that kind of thing, it had nothing to do with sales. It was always just personal use. And depending on where I was, depending on, like the situation, turned out different ways. It's funny because like you go out into like Chittenden County, you get in Burlington, and like the Burlington Police Department, they don't give a shit about weed. They don't care. I mean, I remember they just wanted to make sure you weren't carrying around a shit ton of it. I got busted once rolling in a car just smoking a couple joints, and they're like, "You don't have a trunk full of weed, do you?" And we're like, "No." And so they made us throw the fucking roaches in the drain, and that was it. And I was like, "What the fuck is the point? Like, what's the point?" But like sort of going back, like if you treat people with respect for the most part, they don't fuck with you. So that goes with cops too. If you don't even give them a reason to suspect that you're doing something stupid, they're not. So like treat them with respect. fucking, and like, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck them so hard. I fucking hate police. I fucking, like, obviously, like, there are good people who are police officers, but that doesn't mean the police as a concept, as an idea, as a fucking tool of oppression is a good thing, right?
Do you have
I
a lot of
mean,
friends that have done jail time for any of things similar?
I have friends who've done jail time for stupid shit that's not, well, that's drug related, and the fact that, like, using hard drugs led them to do something stupid.
Uh,
But for the most part, I'm pretty lucky in Vermont that, like, they're not trying to put that many people in jail for it. I think, like, if like, the system in Vermont for a long time has been, trying to put people through diversion for weed and things like that. And since decriminalization, like, it hasn't been that big an issue. I mean, even my friend who was in jail, like jail, and he's on probation, like, he can smoke weed legally on probation because it's not, doesn't violate any of his
yeah, I've
terms.
seen that
He
there.
can't drink, he can't do any other drugs, but he can smoke weed, which is, like, honestly is the smartest fucking thing you can do to keep people out of fucking trouble.
I thought that
Like,
was a nice move from Vermont to sort of
very
lighten up
smart.
on that.
I mean, it's one of the things that's kept him fucking sane, right? Like, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard being fucking reintegrated into society and people, no one trusting you, like that kind of thing. And also coming off of a serious, like, opioid addiction, like, it's hard.
Mm, sure thing.
And so to have that, and like the craziest thing with him is he got clean by himself once he got locked up. He didn't have any treatment, nothing. He went maybe 8 months, I think,
Wow.
without any treatment. And
Wow.
in order for him to get released, he had to go on methadone. So after almost a year of no opiates in his system in prison, no violations, in order for him to go back outside, he had to go on methadone.
Wow.
And he's still on treatment today. And if anybody who knows anything about that shit knows that coming off of methadone is worse than coming off of heroin.
So he got himself clean, cold turkey in prison, and to get
Mhm.
out, they made him go on methadone. Is that what I'm hearing?
100%.
Wow.
Because if you're a drug offender of some sort and you're getting on early release, they want to make sure that you fucking don't fuck up. And the best way they can do that to keep an eye on you is have you show up a couple times a week and fucking at their clinic.
Wow.
And they'll test you and then they have an eye on you. And, like, this is something never violated, never fucking once had an issue. As probation officer, we recommended early release and was like, there's no issues here. But because of the way the system works, that they will put you back on the opiates. They'll put you right back on it just to make
Wow.
sure they can keep you on a leash.
That's incredible.
It's awful.
I've never heard that before.
Yes, it's crazy. It's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
Wow. I want to ask you a little bit about the rec market here in terms of weed, because we've talked about this a couple of times leading up to this, but I'd love for you to sort of lay out your opinions as to maybe sort of why you've decided not to get involved in that market.
What market?
Yeah.
Honestly, you're looking at a state with what? 500,000 people in it, and there's 4 stores that are open. How long each day? How many days a week? Get the fuck out of here. There is no legal market in the state. There's no legal. That's not a legal market. It's 4 stores right now. Who knows what's going to happen? But right now, you have a legal market that charges almost twice as much for a product that is meh, at best. And not to say, and I'm not taking any shots at Vermont growers at all, because some of the shit I've seen coming out of some of these places, like Tall Truck, Bushy Beard, fucking Forbins, like, these guys are incredible growers. They're really good at what they do. They've been doing it a long time. And, I think the biggest problem with people in my position and people who, are layers above me is just the amount of production that these guys can do. Some of the people I know are going through 30 pounds a week. And you have to be consistent on quality. You can't get that kind of quality from a single farm here. Nobody can do it. There's no one up to that scale yet. There's no one who's doing that who can provide to one place that much quantity.
Mm.
So there's like a lot of things that are like really still in benefit of the dark market, because I'm one person supplying maybe 10 people, right? You know, every town has at least one of me. You go into Chittenden County, there's hundreds of me.
Mm.
We're everywhere, right? Everybody knows the guy. And that's the thing about fucking people who sell weed, is most of it is like, oh, I'm gonna grab a fucking ounce and I'm gonna sell like a quarter to my friend. I'm gonna sell a quarter to this friend, then I get some herb for free. And that's it. Like, you're not a fucking, it's not like it's not like there's a fucking dealer with a fucking, sitting with cases of this and that, and it's just, for the most part, yes, there's a couple of those people, but like 80-90% of the people who are selling weed in this state are somebody who's just got enough to fucking get themselves high and get their friends high and help supply them. And that's it. And that's why it's such a fucking great method, because like, who you're getting it from. If you're fucking hard up, you can get it on the cuff. If you want a fucking quarter pound, you can get a quarter pound. If you want a gram, you can get a gram. And you can get it in the same container. You get it in a recycled container. You don't need fucking 85 labels. You don't need a fucking warning, right?
Yeah, and that's been a big point of contention here in Vermont, is sort of the packaging and the labeling and all this. And to me, it certainly seems excessive.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. I don't understand it at all. I mean, why do you need to fucking if somebody wants to fucking buy enough gummies to get them through a fucking month without having to go back to the store, why do you have to have a package with fucking, each 5 milligram thing fucking
Right.
individually wrapped?
And 50 milligrams maximum.
Yeah, it's insane. 50 milligrams is a dose for me, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm more of a 20. I'm more in the 20
yeah.
kind of range, but some
But
of the
it
people I know
depends.
eat
Sometimes I'll do
200.
200. Yeah.
Yeah, but
If I'm going to bed, like if I want to have a good night's sleep, I'll eat 200. So I got to sit there and open that fucking shit that many fucking times. Like, are you kidding?
wow.
God damn it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah, and like, you can get edibles anywhere. Like, you can fucking, you can make your own. It's easy, right? And so to put all these caveats and limitations in place, and now, and like, I think one of the things that, is a huge unknown right now is fucking what's Biden doing, right? He just pardoned federal. They're gonna reschedule fucking marijuana, maybe.
Yeah, and I
Maybe.
thought that was kind of a
He's
half measure.
trying.
Let me interrupt you, because I thought that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a half measure. He said he's going to pardon people with have done federal time for simple possession, and I just thought that's really not that many people. Like, who's doing
It's
federal time for simple possession?
6,100 people.
6,100. So not that many.
6,100.
Maybe
I
his
mean,
son was one of them.
well, no, he doesn't need to get in trouble. That man is living the fucking dream, dude. Imagine getting fucking your family just to pay you to go to a fucking rehab center where you just get to fucking do crack with fucking models and sensory deprivation tanks. Like, that is the life. That is exactly what I would be doing if my dad was the fucking president, man. That's the life. It really is. Like, good for him.
I
But
can't
no, I
even
mean,
blame him.
but like, I mean, 6,100 people, like, yes, it's a small number, but it's 6,100 people that should not fucking be in jail who are getting out. And that's a good thing. It's a small change, but I think if you get to the point where you reschedule it, then you have to look at all the people who are in jail for it for any sort of charge, right? And how they ended up there. And like, yeah, it's a mess, but you have to deal with it, right? Because you fucked over generations of people. There's fucking, how many kids grew up without parents because their fucking parents smoked a little weed or smuggled a lot of weed. But
Or
I
had
mean,
some cocaine in their pocket or
or
something.
whatever, yeah, or no, or crack, worse,
Sure.
because of the penalty difference, and like the history of the racism in the controlling populations, and then getting into the fucking making money. Like, we just got out of Afghanistan, and all of a sudden, the second we get out of Afghanistan, all the heroin disappears, and it's all fentanyl now. What, like, is that a coincidence? I don't fucking think so. Like, you look in the 80s, all the fucking shit we're doing in the fucking South America, as soon as we stop really getting involved in there, we switch to fucking a different drug of choice. We have, like, It's no coincidence. That's how they make their fucking money. You know, like we know this for a fact. The CIA will sell fucking drugs and guns to fucking finance whatever they're trying to do off the books. Like they've come clean about it. Nobody gave a shit. Oliver North fucking has a job on Fox News.
Yeah, that shit blew my mind.
It's fucking criminal. It's fucking absolutely criminal that motherfucker isn't rotting in a fucking pit somewhere having fucking snakes bite his balls.
Although, to be fair to Oliver North, I kind of thought he was a fall guy for that whole operation.
Sure. I mean, it's not like it didn't go all the way to the top, but I mean,
I thought Ronald Reagan should have been in jail for that.
Yeah, everybody, CIA, everybody. But, you know, anytime you get in the way of the CIA, something happens. But they're the biggest drug dealers on the planet, man. Biggest drug dealers on the planet. CIA.
No shit. And that's the government.
It's the government's government.
And
it's
yet
not
there's
even
still
it's
so when you look at that,
and
when you look at that in comparison to all these rules that they have for these weed growers, like, doesn't that sort of stand in opposition to each other? Like,
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? If you want to control, if you want to like make sure that no one else can get the power of the market that you can control, you have to make everybody jump through hoops to get there. You know, like with anything, you know, like think about like if you went to fucking another country, you know, where they might not like, say Mexico legalized weed completely, right? No regulations, blah, blah, blah. You could just open up a fucking cart and sell weed there, right? You can fucking do whatever you want. Like, you think about land of the free, like, you can't ride in the back of a pickup truck if you wanted to down the street. You get fucking pulled over, right? So, like, it's all about control. It's always been about control. It's always about doing little things over time to make you feel less in control of your own life and therefore give up more power to the fucking people who want to fucking, you know, use you and exploit you for whatever resource you're valuable for, which is creating fucking money at this point, however that is.
and you know, we've seen a lot of lawsuits among these big MSOs, these big corporate dispensaries for, you know, mislabeling their products or using unapproved additives in vape carts, or stealing tips from their own employees. You know, I've never seen that. I've been to a lot of small home grows. I've never seen that level of exploitation like I've seen at the corporate level of cannabis.
Yeah, well, I mean, you go into the corporate level of anything, right? Like once you get into a business whose sole purpose is to make money, if you have public shares, if you're a public company, it changes the way you have to do business, right? Like you can't do business like you would as a normal human being, because your only interest, like if you don't make quarterly profits, your shareholders will kick you out and take over the company, right? That's legally your obligation
But
at that
they'll
point.
find someone who will make those profits.
Exactly. And so like that's it. Is like the second that you get in the way of profiteering, then you're out. And eventually, right, like if like your only goal is quarterly profits, you got to make money one way or another. You start cutting all these corners, and again, you get to the point where the only thing you can start cutting is your labor costs, or whatever the costs associated with labor are, because it's the only thing left, right? And then all of a sudden, yeah, you're fucking your employees over left and right, and that's what happens with the corporate level. And like, if you're a farmer, if you're a fucking somebody who's growing weed because they love to grow weed and they fucking love to grow whatever, like they're horticulturalists at heart, right? Like you have a different priority going in. And if your priority is to grow the best fucking weed, you know, and like your business is going to be different than it is if you're going in to make the most money. You know, you look at someone like Hill Farmstead, Sean at Hill Farmstead. Like his whole goal has been to make the best beer in the world, and that's been the goal since day one. Whether you agree or not is up for debate, but a lot of people say he does. But if you look at the way his business is structured, the way he handles everything, he had a plan where he said, "This is as big as I can get without sacrificing the quality of my product and the quality of life of my employees."
Mm.
and while maintaining the highest quality of product in the end. And that was the thing, is like, if you're willing to like do the math and make that compromise, like, could he make a lot more money by tripling, quadrupling the size of his production and lowering the quality of standards, but putting it in a Hill Farmstead can and shipping it to Oregon?
Right, or selling it off to Anheuser-Busch or something.
Or whatever. He could make a shit ton of money doing that. But he, you know, like his goal is to be the best, make the best beer in the world, and have like people who work for him who like want to work there. And
I think there's something to be said for that as well.
yeah, absolutely. Because why would you want to work anyplace else? Like, if that's what you want to do, you want to work for the people who are doing something that they're passionate about, who know what they're doing, who care about you,
Right.
because then you're going to put more into it.
Right.
And I think
That's a
that's, you know,
win.
like,
That's a win-win for everybody, it seems
yeah,
like.
and that's the thing, is like, you look at any small business in Vermont, and you know, I think that's one of the things we have you know, we have a slight advantage in the fact that Vermont already has a culture of being like very extremely pro micro local, right? Like, you have people who up in, you know, like Linden St. J area laugh at the idea of something from Bennington being local, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
and so like, you have this idea, like, you want to support the people who are around you, you want to support the people who, you know, are creating good things. And so we have that mentality here already. Therefore, the businesses who are putting that kind of effort forward, the companies who are putting that kind of effort out, it's easy because the people who work there are your neighbors, they're your friends, they're your family, right? Like, you can't separate. There isn't a separation between, like, you know, the folks at like Forbins and like, you know, like their neighbors, right? Like, it's all like a community in a way, you know, and in a way that you
I
can't
wore
be
I
once
wore
you
my
go.
Forbes hoodie too.
Yeah,
It was the first thing. I didn't want to put a shirt on today, and that was the first
yeah.
thing close to my
And
fucking
I don't
computer.
mean to keep shouting them out. I mean, like, I just think that like they are, you know, one of a few people who, you know, like, I know personally in the market that are doing things in a way that, you know, like, are really cohesive with, you know, like, how the Vermont market should move.
But
And
and you know, I've seen a lot of different urban. I gotta tell you, I still think Forbes has some of the best urban state. Uh, you know, and as well as Bushy Beer and Tall Short, those are definitely some guys that have shown me really a high quality product on a consistent basis that, you know, have never let me down, really.
I mean, that's the thing, is like, when it comes to the growers on the legal side, like, that's the thing, is like, they've done a really I don't even say a good job. They've done a much better job on the state level of making sure the growing operations have licenses, right, and are able to do what they're doing legally
Mm.
without too much fear. But the fact that they've only granted 4 licenses to sell fucks everybody, right? So like,
And
what
we
are you
only have
supposed to
one
do?
testing lab really that's fully functional right now, which makes it hard for everyone to get their products tested.
Exactly. And if you if you have been planning on, you know, first, you know, an April date and then an October date, and you're pushing production for this, all of a sudden you're stuck with all this product and no store is open to sell it in. Like, what are you supposed to do as a business? Like, I feel so bad for these guys,
Mm.
you know, and like, you have guys who are, you know, have these storefronts, who are renting spaces, who have storefronts waiting to get a license approved already, and they can't get a goddamn license because they're just not giving them out yet. Because they're all, we're going to wait and see to how these first shops work and this and that. And it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. But ultimately, it's good for me. Prices for them are too high. The lines are going to be long, and you have to fucking drive. If you're anywhere, you know, outside of the area, you have to fucking drive.
So that was
I
going to
have
be
to drive.
my big closing question here. Like, I mean, you think this retail market is sort of going to be beneficial for the black market? Is that right?
I don't see how it can't be. When we're talking about having a surplus of high quality cannabis in the state that can't be sold on an illegal route. I mean, look what happened in Colorado, right? You had so much that you couldn't sell it at all the dispensaries, that the fucking black market was getting it dirt cheap. Same thing's going to happen here. I think there's going to be a surplus of farmers who just can't unload any of their product. It's going to go bad. They're going to start moving it. How can you not if you got bills to pay again? So there's that aspect of it. Then you have the aspect where there's actual price comparison for once, right? Like I can point to a fucking receipt and be like, I could beat that. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be less of a hassle. You don't have to wait in line. I think, like, yes, I don't have the glitz and glamour of being coming into a shop and having a display case and feeling like it's legal. Bless you, sir. But at the same time, like, like that experience could probably get old pretty fucking fast having to deal with bud tenders, right? Like every day, like, hey, bro, what you looking for feeling like? So you don't give a shit. It's like, this is what I got. This is what you can have. Do you like it or not? If you don't fucking like it, that's fucking, I'm sorry. I'll let you know when I get something next and I'll throw you a little extra. This is your birthday, I'll throw you a little more. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Like,
yeah. Hey, it is
like,
my birthday.
shit, yeah, but that's the kind of thing. Like, you can't get it. Like most fucking, there's no opportunity for that. Like, yeah, some places you can give away bonuses and shit, but like,
Hmm. A
what
little
are the
bit of
things about?
personalized customer service, maybe.
Yeah, I can even do no contact, fucking COVID free, fucking, drop offs, whatever. Like I could do if you're fucking live out in the middle of nowhere and you're fucking like you're stuck and like you don't have a car and you're hard up, I can drop it off. Like there's all sorts of options. Like what do you do if you're fucking old and like you're dealing with chemo and you can't get out of your fucking house?
That's
You
been
know, you
another
gotta
big issue in Vermont. They've been talking about is the transportation issue because that's allowed for medical dispensaries, but not for retail dispensaries.
Yeah, it'd be a huge business. I mean, it already is out west, like the fucking cannabis delivery services. It's awesome. I mean, it's like what, and like that's the thing is like we'll see what happens with the if it gets rescheduled and declassified, because I think that opens up a lot of different opportunities for it to go a much broader route. But ultimately, like as much as I would hate to see, my income dry off from it, my goal would be to see it fucking available the same way alcohol's available. Exactly, like the same shit. If Vermont has to have like their own independent stores selling it, like whatever, but like you should be able to buy it in the fucking at Cumbies. You should be able to buy it at fucking Mobile. You know what I'm saying? You
Weed
should
at
be able to
Cumbies.
go and
That's what you'd like to see.
ultimately, like if in a just world,
Mushrooms at Walmart.
I mean, decriminalize all drugs, man.
Is that
You
where you're at?
know,
Decriminalize all drugs.
yeah, I mean, if we're talking about dealing with root issues, like the drugs aren't the root issues. It's the conditions in which people live which drive them to use drugs. And prohibition is never going to stop us from dealing with those issues and fixing those problems. They've done the studies, they've done the rat and cocaine studies, and you put them in the right conditions, and they don't want to do the drugs.
Hmm.
You same thing with people, man. You give people the fucking housing, the healthcare, the education, the food that we need, and create a fucking condition in our lives that's better than it is today, where you're not stressed about how you're going to make it tomorrow. Like, what are you going to do? Like,
Hmm.
the need, that desire, the fucking urge to fucking take yourself out of a fucking living hell goes away if you're not in a living hell anymore. Like then it can just be like a much more recreational thing, and treat it as it is. Like it's not a sin. It's not a moral failure. It's an addiction for the most part, and like if you're gonna, like live in this society, people are gonna fucking try and get you to do drugs, man. It's everywhere. It's
Hmm.
absolutely everywhere. You look, most of it is coming in magazines and on TV and in fucking from your doctors. Like that's the thing is like everywhere you look, there's advertisements for drugs that do this and drugs that do this and drugs that cure this. You watch a fucking, one of the Dr. Oz segments. He's got a miracle fucking drug for everything. And that's it. We live in a society where the only answer is a quick fucking pill because this is the problem is so much bigger than fucking anything anyone wants to deal with. It's easier to just get fucking high, man.
Hmm.
So
Have you met any folks that had sort of used cannabis to kick other drug habits?
I have, yeah, absolutely. It's like I stopped smoking cigarettes, I stopped smoking crack, I stopped doing pills, all with the help of cannabis,
Wow.
easily. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
and it's one of those things is like you have to, like anything, you have to want it. If you don't want to quit, you're never gonna quit, right? There's no easy way to do it, right? You have to want it, and then having something that you can lean on, something that you know isn't fucking killing you every time you do it, something that isn't just like just a complete waste of time and money. Like, yeah, like it makes a difference mentally being able to smoke some weed instead of fucking being like, all right, I'm gonna fucking spend the next, 12 hours locked in a bathroom doing fucking blow or something, like I don't know. But yeah, I know quite a few people that have used cannabis as a crutch to get off harder drugs and to stay off them. I mean, because you can get clean, it's staying clean that's the hardest part, right? Off of anything, it's so easy to fall back into something that you're conditioned to use. But having something that like it's like the alcoholics in AA, man, they like never give up smoking because it's all you got. And it's kind of like that,
but that's still another addiction.
but sure, but like everything is, right? Like what in
Yeah,
life is it? I'm addicted to water. I'm addicted to air. Too much air, too much water. Both of them will kill me.
uh,
Right? But it's all about balance. Like some things you fucking some addictions are necessary.
mm, great point. Well, Henry, I'm about out of questions here. I'd like to thank you for your time first.
Thank
And
you.
I always leave the last word for my guest. If you got anything else, please let us know, like why you chose that background. But thanks for your time, man. It's been a pleasure.
Oh no, thank you. Last words. I just want to say thank you for the work you've been doing. There isn't a lot of people who are willing to take the time to actually dive into like what the whole picture is. It's really easy to write a headline and write a few paragraphs. It's a lot harder to take the time to go out and talk to all the people involved and do the research and like get involved in the way you have, and I think that's admirable.
Thank
As
you.
far as me and the White House, I mean, it's a beautiful building, man. Look at it; it's gorgeous. They got nice gardens out there. It would look really good if there's just weed plants all around it too. But I mean, last word is, don't don't be quick to judge people, and be kind. I think those are elemental important lessons and trying to move past the struggle we're in, because there's too many people who are quick to dismiss other people with real problems just because they haven't had those problems themselves and don't understand them. So a little compassion, a little kindness, a little empathy goes a long way in this world.
I think that's a beautiful note to leave it on. Henry, thank you for your time, man. I'll get this up as soon as I can.
Yeah, no worries, man. No rush.
Peace.